I'd say the first one, the most important thing really is like to tell yourself that you can do it. You know what I mean? That you're worthy of like writing a song. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that maybe somebody might want to hear what, you have to say, or who cares? It's really just for you.
So, hey Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Welcome to the Zoom. Welcome to the channel.
All right. And how are you? I didn't ask. That's rude.
Oh no, I'm good. You asked earlier
Oh,
when we
okay.
first hopped in here, so you're
There.
all good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
So, to everyone watching this is going to end up on YouTube. So, I just wanted to do a quick intro for Matt. And what we're doing today is we're just going to hang out and we're going to chat about, some things that have come up. So, Matt is a musician and an educator. And I guess I'll just read your bio right now, if that's okay.
Sure. Of course.
Cool. So, Matt LaBarber has been a professional musician for almost 20 years. He spent several years touring all throughout the country with bands like the K23 Orchestra and Surefire Soul Ensemble. Throughout that time, Matt was also a music teacher, giving private and group lessons on bass as well as guitar, piano, ukulele, voice, drums, and composition. In the last few years, Matt has transitioned his lessons to an online platform almost exclusively. Through developing the skills of helping others learn how to play music without being in the same room, he decided that he would be confident extending his reach to beyond just his immediate students. This past year, Matt has been developing a YouTube channel as well as several online courses to help people learn from music from the comfort of their own home. Matt's approach is unique to other YouTube teachers because he has spent several hours a day for years communicating with people through the computer. So his communication is very clear and his style makes it fun and easy to learn from him. You can visit Matt at mattlabarbermusic.com or check out his YouTube channel, which is at Matt LaBarber Music. And then you have a Bandcamp too, right? mattlabarber.bandcamp.com. So I'll put links to that in the description below for everybody. But yeah, welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So I know I originally messaged you. I was thinking about asking you on the channel for a long time, to be honest. I've just been really busy with like grad school stuff and everything else. And but I wanted to ask you on, and then I saw that you made a post about being blocked by a band recently. And so that's when I reached out to you to kind of ask about that and see if you wanted to come on the channel. And do you want to kind of tell us what happened with that to start?
Yeah, so I have been doing these, bass videos, and for bass, it's a little weird. Like if you just play the bass line by itself with no context, it's sort of unrecognizable. And I know that from like when I was a kid, I was learning. I'd play a song for my dad. Maybe it's because I sucked, but I don't know. I'd play the song, and like he'd be like, "That's cool. What song is that?" So the whole time that I've been doing it, I thought, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'll play to the backing track. I'll remove the bass and I'll play along to the backing track so you can hear the bass line in action. And then, the next step is I explain everything I did step by step. But some people just want to see you play. Like I can learn a song just by watching someone play it, people at a higher level. So that's always step one, right? Is play along to the tune. And, I've done a lot of videos up till this point, and all those videos usually say, like they'll say copyright, protection, which is fine with me. I don't plan on making any money off of it. What I'm trying to do is teach people, a song that I like and highlight sort of my teaching abilities more than anything, or just like, show something to somebody that I think is cool. And I picked this song in particular, and it was by the Beatles. I'll say it. Okay. So in my post, I was like a band from Liverpool. Because I don't know. I mean, who knows? But it's the Beatles, who coincidentally is my favorite band. I picked a song by them. I Saw Her Standing There, which is not one of my favorite tunes of theirs, but I had to learn it to play in a band, like playing some gig, and realized when I was learning the song and trying to play it that it's really hard, like because it's just so fast and there's like a pattern that repeats, and so it's like a really good exercise.
It is kind of fast for a Beatles song, huh?
It is. And Paul's singing at the same time that he's playing this bass line. It's not like a
Wow.
hard bass line, but it's like, 2.5 minutes of just like burning, fast tempo
Yeah.
and singing at the same time. So like when I learned it and tried to execute it, I was like, wow, I actually do like this song. Like I didn't realize. And that's actually like how I became a Beatles fan in the first place. When I was a kid, I liked, like metal, and I thought they were cheesy and, like she loves you, like that stuff was kind of lame. But then I started learning their songs and was like, this is the best band I've ever heard. The more of their tune, like the more complicated, there's just difficult songs. They have all these cool things. And so I thought that song in particular would be interesting because there's probably other people like me that are like, that song sucks. And then you try and play it. Like if you think it sucks, try and play it. Like see if you can play it for 2.5 minutes,
Yeah, like dissect it a little and then you might feel differently.
It gives like, again, there are a lot of artists like that where, I don't have much respect or enthusiasm about them. And then you try to like, you go through their material and you try to learn it and you dissect it and you're like, oh, that's actually like a pretty cool, well-written song. And that's kind of my point is to maybe expose some people to either, bands they don't know or just things about bands that that you don't realize. And so that's kind of how that came up. Sorry, it's a long answer to a short question, but
No, it's all relevant,
yeah, so that's, the point. That's why I picked this particular tune. And again, like I said, it's hard, it's like, I can do it, but like, I have to practice that. Like, I can't just do it. Like some songs I listen to it once or twice and I'm like, I'm good. And this one, like, I have to play it with a metronome slowly and work my way up to the tempo because it's fast. It's hard to do for a long time. So you got to build stamina. So like I was working on this for a lot longer than I work on other songs. And I recorded it a couple times, it's like, it's a lot of time that you put into these videos. As you know, I'm sure yours, they take time.
Yeah, they do for sure.
And the editing process and upload, it's a lot. And I probably had to do 4 or 5 takes of it or something just to like get it right. And I'm going through and being like, oh, a minute and a half in, I'm like, not that one,
Yep.
But still like I had to watch it and, I had to play through the whole thing several times. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But, boo-hoo, woe is me. But like, then I uploaded it and, instead of the typical copyright claim thing, which is what I was talking about earlier, like all the cover songs I do show up copyright claim. And they just tell you can't monetize that, which I don't intend to. I don't want to make money off someone else's music, but I do want to show it to other people. And I thought that would happen with this one. And instead they just straight up blocked it. And they were like, it can't be viewed by anyone, period. Like
so it's like a copyright strike, huh?
Yeah, well, so the copyright ones come up with like a little circle and a slash, and it just tells you like, that
they're taking your money if you have any, right?
Yeah. Like if I get 1 million views, then they get them, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it goes to that band because it's not my song. Like, I don't, but I feel like they get a boost, they do. I know it. I know they get a boost from me teaching people those songs. Cause like I was talking about earlier, it's like, there's going to be at least a couple of people that are like, wow, I didn't realize how cool that song actually is,
Yeah. And you're spreading it to the next generation too, that may not be interested in it otherwise. And
absolutely. That's a great point. And that's another thing, right? You think, oh, the Beatles are like the biggest band in the world. Not to a 12-year-old or 9-year-old kid. They don't care, about the Beatles, but my students do eventually, even no matter how much they resist, like at some point I teach them,
you drag them into it.
because almost always it's very, very rare unless they're stubborn and like really dig their heels in about like I don't like them, then, then usually they come out of it going, oh man, that's okay. That's actually pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
And, it opens up your mind to like, okay, there's something maybe I was missing.
Yeah. So just for anyone watching, there's like the copyright claim thing, right? And then there's the copyright strike thing. And so when you're making content, basically the claim thing is where they're just taking your money, but your video stays up, which is what has been happening with previous lessons that you've done, right?
Yeah, all of them up until this point.
Yeah, and then the strike thing is what sounds like is happening here, right? Where they actually took your video down. So now, you can't share that video. It's not being shared.
No.
So that's
never. It's gone.
Yeah. And that's way more serious too, because if that happens multiple times, I think they'll take your channel down, right?
Totally. Yeah. Because, there's, if you have a couple of strikes against you, I don't know if that counts. Like if I took it down immediately, I have no idea, but yeah, they could do that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they can. Yeah.
And I've seen some cases, sorry to cut you off, that where they tell you that like it can't be viewed in certain countries. There's a few videos I've had where they said like you can't view it in Russia or something. But one country out of all the countries, I can deal with that. But this was like anyone, anywhere, nobody, no dice.
Jeez, that's rough. Have you figured anything out about if you could combat that at all without like going to court and spending $1 million?
Yeah, I kind of
because it's educational.
I kind of don't want to try because I don't want to alert them to my other content. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just didn't know if it was worth it to like fight for that one song.
Yeah,
it's absolutely educational, and again, I don't want any money from it at all.
Yeah. And I know like I've had claims on my channel. I don't get them very often because usually I'm just sharing Pro Tools stuff, and I'll share stuff that, I get permission from the client to use it, or it's something that I'm just making myself in the software. But I've gotten claims before, and it was for things like, I have one where I was talking about diegetic music in film. And so I had like clips from Baby Driver and stuff, but they were just short clips. And it was to explain this concept, very short clips. And so I was able to fight that within like the YouTube system. Right.
Yeah.
And that went fine. Like they ended up taking away the claim. So I wonder if there's anything like that for strikes, or if it's like, either you don't do anything or you go to court. Right? Is it like those two extremes? Or?
Yeah, I'm sure there might be something in between, right? But I didn't want to find out, really. Yeah. Just because, for two reasons. One, like I was saying, I just don't want them to alert them to anything else about me that maybe they might, want to like then have to take down all my stuff. I've spent so much time in my life doing that, and the other thing was also, speaking of time, is like how much time would it take to investigate that, versus like just doing something else, and crossing the Beatles off my list, forever. Unfortunately, because I mean that's one of the best bands to learn from in my book,
Right. Yeah. And I know I asked you this before, but you had some of the recording in the actual video, or was it not?
I did, yeah.
Because I know there's like a difference, right?
There is.
Some of
the big, the big YouTubers, the millions of views, like people that are making a living off of it, they'll re-record the song with like a different singer and, some electronic drums or their own drum. They redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time, I wish I did. If it was my full-time job, that's absolutely what I would have done.
Yeah.
Or if I was, focused on learning more about recording techniques, I would do that. Because then they don't pick it up. Like a cover version of something doesn't get picked up by I'm assuming it's the same software that you use for like, what's the app on your phone that I don't ever have to look at because I just say the S word,
Pops up. It's Shazam, right?
Yeah, there you go, Shazam.
Yeah.
So like all it needs is what 8 seconds or something of a song sometimes, picks it up immediately. And this is the same thing.
Yeah. People have been trying to train computers to recognize music for so long.
Yeah.
I think they're getting pretty good at it too.
I don't understand though, like, how do you think it benefits them to do that? Like, what's the point? Like, what's the purpose behind, like, my stopping me from?
Yeah. And it's tough because you're in this kind of in between world, right? Where you're a music educator, but you're also posting these videos on YouTube. So you're not like a lot of YouTube people where it's like they're making, this is their job. They're making big profit off it or whatever. And I know there are exceptions for copyright when it comes to music education, right? There's like the face-to-face exemption, I think, where if you're teaching a lesson face-to-face with a student, then you can use as much of the song as you want. And but it's interesting that now we're in this world where there's this in-between where it's kind of similar, right? What you're doing, but it's on this different platform.
Right.
So it's like which copyright should apply. And obviously they've chosen one, but
So I think the only reason there's a face-to-face exemption is because they can't prove it. You know what I mean? They can't go to people's, so they're just like, well, if it's, in a room, but if there was a way for them to like probably get at it, I'm assuming that they would,
Yeah. But like they don't have an exemption for like, well, I guess this is different, but like conferences and stuff, like if someone's doing a presentation and they put a song in their presentation, technically that's a copyright issue.
Totally. Yeah.
And
but
like maybe the band would never find out. Yeah, they'd never find out. But technically, there's no exception for that. There's no exemption for that. So I know they are trying to be nicer towards educators.
Right.
But
because that's the whole point. Like, I'm not, but 100%, of course I'm promoting myself. I'm promoting my teaching skills, which eventually, yes.
Right.
You want a bigger following. And what I want, like the only reason I do cover songs is because that's how people find you,
Yeah.
My main thing is I want to show people techniques that will help them become better musicians, and sort of, I guess in a way I'm using those songs to advertise myself as a teacher. So it's not like,
it's kind of like a business card.
It is, but
Yeah.
that's how people find me. But it's like, it's not just me playing the song. It's me explaining the song,
Right.
That
there's like an actual lesson in there. It's not you just using the copywritten material.
Right. So in a way, I guess I am, I am self-promoting. I'm not just going to pretend it's like, it is educational, but there is an ulterior motive. There always is for everything everyone does, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, and even for them, I'm sure, but it's weird because it's probably just this like blanket thing that they do, like no one can use our tunes, but like, I'm sure they don't know, like there's no one really like checking into how it's being used or I wonder if anybody involved in the organization knows, like thinks about the long term, because the business has changed, right? And to stay relevant for so many years, like you have to keep, you have to keep being a part of the culture, right? Like there's songs like as a guitar teacher, you teach people Seven Nation Army or Smoke on the Water, right? Those songs are never going to go away because they're easy to play, and what's that one, that Riptide song, like it's Vance Joy. I don't know if you know it, but like you play ukulele, so I'm assuming you've probably learned it at some point,
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I just forgot
but there's like certain songs that they stay in the culture because they're easy to play, what I mean? Because people know them.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
It's not like, like again, Smoke on the Water, would it still be relevant now if it wasn't such an easy riff to play? Like, would kids still be talking about it? I don't know.
Right, yeah. That's an interesting question.
But they do. Like, kids know it,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
They know the riff at least, you know, it might lead them to listen to the whole song or maybe a Deep Purple album, God forbid.
Right. Yeah. So when you're that, like, I guess that opens up the whole question about how you choose like repertoire and stuff when you're teaching. Do you think about copyright at all when you do that, or?
No, now I will. But
Yeah.
at the time, you know, like I assumed, and this is I did zero research, so it's my own fault. Like, you know, afterwards, people are like, "Oh yeah, the Beatles, like, they are notorious for." I'm like, well, why though? Like, because there are other bands that used to do that don't anymore. And it's ever since they started doing the claim. I think a lot of
Yeah.
bands kind of gave it up.
It's
Excuse me.
probably more of a PR thing than a actual legal thing.
That's very realistic. And all, I mean, I understand they can make money off of like sheet music, right? Like
Yeah.
if I purchased, you know, the song and I'm teaching, but how can I do that
Right.
online? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, and there's not a good system for it.
there isn't.
I don't think there's not a very good system for that.
No.
So there's systems if you're doing like a K-12 class, right? And you want to buy the sheet music and have your band play whatever.
Right.
But there's not a good system for this type of educational music lesson.
Yeah. Now, if I had just played the bass line by itself, then it wouldn't have gotten picked up, right? If I didn't play along to the track. But
Right.
again, if I just play the bass line by itself, how recognizable is it? Like,
Yeah.
how do you, in context, how do you hear it? And again, you know, how do I remember, did I do that, you know, 16 times or 32 times? You know, it's like, it's so much
Right.
easier if you're playing along to the song. Like, yeah, you can count, but you don't
Right.
have to if you're playing with the tune, you know, like you count way less.
And I'm sure it helps with student motivation to actually be able to hear the song. And
Absolutely. Like if
not
you
just
just
the
hear,
bass.
right. Like if you just hear a bass line by itself, you're like, cool, great.
Yeah.
But it's like where it fits into, you know, the band. That's what makes bass cool, in my opinion, is like the group, like where it comes in between the other instruments.
Yeah.
Which makes one bass player better than the others, in my
It's like the
opinion.
groove.
Right. But
Yeah.
how do you show the groove if you're playing by yourself or just me
Right.
and a metronome? It's like, oh yeah, that's that's sick. So that, I mean, that's, but I understand, like from the business standpoint, like they want to get paid, you know, and they should. But I, like, if ever there was a band that I've given more, there's no band on earth that I've given more money to than the Beatles. Like, I have all, you know, I bought their stuff on like, you know, cassette and CD and again on vinyl, and I own like the anthologies, and you know what I mean. I have all these like Beatles books that I bought like to learn tune. It's like, it was so funny to me because I'm like, man, if ever there was a band that I'm not ripping off, it's them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've given them more of my money than like 50 bands combined, you know?
Yeah.
So very
Yeah, that's a
interesting.
tough one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw on your website that you also teach songwriting now too. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you have any advice for people that are struggling with songwriting. Do you have any like tips that you tend to give your students?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say the first one, the most important thing really is like to tell yourself that you can do it. You know what I mean? That you have, that you're worthy of like writing a song. So, and that maybe somebody might want to hear what, you know, you have to say, or who cares? It's really just for you. That comes up all the time when I'm teaching people about writing music, is like, I didn't know either that I could just make stuff up at first. You know, when I was taking lessons, like I learned the stuff in the books, and I'd play the stuff and they'd say good job, or you need to practice more, or whatever. But I didn't know that I could just like put chords together and you know, sing and make stuff up. Like no one told me I could do that. And then when I figured it out, that's like all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed that with like a lot of the performance people, like in my grad school and stuff like that, it's there are these two different worlds, right? Where you're taught to perform and do the technical performance stuff versus creating. And it's, I guess when you're in the performance side of things, you're maybe a lot less likely to branch off into the creating side.
yeah, well, there's only so much time too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also how you're taught. Like I know people that are, some of the most creative people, that I've ever met that are constantly working on new things, but don't know any of the academic part of music and like
Yeah.
wish that they did.
Yeah.
Like friends of mine that are so talented, but then, you're like, here's this song, can you play it? And they're like, oh, I can't read music, and it's
Yeah.
this kind of shameful, like dark secret,
But it's super common, it's like,
Well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. And like there are, but again, there's only so much time. So it depends
Yeah.
on how you want to focus your energy, but you could get so much more work if you could do that,
Right.
But then I also know other people that are like amazing, like readers that, read circles around me. You give them something and they got it in seconds, whereas I'm like, okay, let's see, we're in this key, like it takes me a little longer.
Like the people that could actually sight read something.
Oh yeah.
Like well.
Like, yeah, well, like I sight read well, but not like well, you know what I mean? Where I could just, those accompanists where you just you're like, where you see people go for auditions and they just like hand you music they've never seen and they're like, do,
No problem.
I'm not there, but oftentimes
I'm not either.
yeah. But oftentimes those people are not good improvisers or, it's, not always the case, but I'd say the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's the time thing, right? It's
right.
people become specialized in certain things. Like I became specialized in audio engineering and now my performance stuff is not good. Like really bad, but it's fine. Like I've chosen to focus on like the production side of things. So yeah.
Right. But as a teacher, right, for me, I just want everyone to know like all the options they have and they can specialize down the line. Right. But some people never had a choice. Like I know a lot of people that they quit because, they did these competitions and they were amazing, like, readers and, they won, but it was like so much pressure that it like wasn't even fun, So
yeah.
Here's 2 chords, here's a scale, 2 chords and a scale equals a song, so I do stuff like that all the time. 'Cause I want people to know, I guess, all of it, so I included that. I've been doing it for a while, but I included it in my lessons as an option because I want people to know that that's something I can help them with.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know, like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, the idea that our educational system kind of tends to weed out certain types of people.
Yes.
And like the stuff that I've gotten into tends to be one of the things that tends to get weeded out. And I don't know why that is, right? But it's interesting that happens.
That's a good, well, so how I've thought about that is that like, they're trying to cater to the middle, right? And that's how, that's how you do it, right? You got to cater to the middle. So I didn't do very well in school because, I'm not that way. But that's how I always, I think about education. So I like, people are so different, someone could have reached me very easily if they just would have, and some people did, like some people did. I had some teachers that really got to me, obviously, but most of them, it's just like, they're teaching the class. They're not teaching the people.
Right.
So I guess that's why music lessons, like if I was teaching a group class, which I have and I didn't care for, I probably would, you can't, it's not individual enough.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why I do private lessons instead of teaching, in a school, because I just like a big group like that. I don't want to teach the middle of the room. I want to teach each person in the room.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you tend to like let's see, things that beginners tend to struggle with in terms of like performance or songwriting or anything?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Confidence.
that makes sense.
And routine, like the power of routine is pretty amazing. Like the most successful people I've seen like they practice kind of at a certain time every day versus like whenever, because whenever sometimes doesn't happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I've noticed, that like, so, but confidence, people thinking they can do it, or maybe overconfidence is the other end of the spectrum,
I love that.
Yeah, well, it's true. There are some people that like, I know. They're like, I know how to do it. You're like, oh, you do? Okay, cool. Then show me. Let's hear it. No, I know.
Yeah. I don't need to be taught. It's fine.
Yeah,
I was just born knowing everything.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So then what exactly are you doing here? Like, I don't, Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What about like intermediate or advanced players or students? What do you tend to see there?
Okay, by age, I would say adults struggle with time management, like that's the biggest thing, and for intermediate like kids, they start to get burnt out. Like, they start at a certain age with a lot of enthusiasm, but then once you realize like how long it's going to take to actually get good, like that's when people like get lost.
Yeah.
But fortunately for me, like I end up hanging on to people for a long time because, I've quit so many times, like so many instruments, like I quit so much.
You've been through the burnout.
Yeah, I have that experience of like, so I recognize it and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. This is, you got to fight through it and, come out the other side. And I'll be like, remember when this happened before, like, and just keep reminding people.
Yeah. So is that like what you do to fight burnout as a musician, or are there other things that you would recommend?
That's a good question also. How do I fight burnout as a musician? You mean like creatively or just like how to get over the hump or what?
I guess any of it, like anything that pops up as something you tend to help people with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still help myself with that. You know what I mean? Cause I play multiple instruments. So it's like, I'm not as good. Like you were saying, you got to specialize at one point.
Yeah.
And I never did. Like, I guess bass is kind of my specialty, but like, I play guitar not as well as I would like, or piano not as well as I would like, or even bass as well as I would like, because I do all those other things,
Yeah.
So, I'm constantly fighting burnout too. So again, like I have like a good point of reference for how to combat it, because I still want to quit all the time too.
Yeah.
But really, like, it's keep going is like the main message that I have for people all the time. Cause I like, there's going to be another burnout right around the corner, but like past that is like, oh, I got better, but it's like, you always think, oh, I suck. And I'm just not getting any better. And there's a plateau, and there's so many plateaus, there's so many.
The plateaus are so hard to get past. I think I hit a plateau with ukulele and then I kind of slowed down with it.
See, there.
I don't know why. Like Pro Tools is the only thing that I haven't. Like I keep going back to. But I think, I don't know. Once you get into it, past a certain point, it's maybe a little easier to like. You've had practice at returning to it. Even
That's
if
what
you don't.
It is. Yeah.
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 Because like sometimes when I don't want to start something, I'm like, I love my job. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like I really love it. I get sucked into it, But sometimes when I feel like I don't feel like coming up to the studio to work on something, I'll tell myself, okay, you're just going to go up there for like 5 minutes and do something. And then you can stop after 5 minutes. And then I go up there and next thing you know, it's been like 8 hours, Because it's like once I start, I'm good. But tricking yourself into starting can be really hard if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to go be up there for 8 hours,
Yeah. See, now, if you could, we always, give ourselves the best advice or give our friends the best advice, right? But what you just said about the audio stuff is you could easily apply that to your ukulele. You know, you just practice for 5 minutes, right?
Right. Yeah.
5 minutes. And then
I need to do that.
right. I mean, but that's why I was laughing when you were saying it, because it's like, oh, that's the exact same thing. But I think maybe you've had enough success with the audio engineering, and maybe enough, like you're past the like awkward point to the point where you're good at it, and it's like,
I hope so.
well, I mean, you know,
I'm slowly gaining confidence. Yeah, and I feel pretty good about it lately.
well, but we're never going to be as good as we want to be, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
That's the best and the worst part about it is like, so,
well, it's like my favorite thing is you can keep digging, you can keep learning, you know, you can keep growing. You don't like, you know, there's no top to it. So, and I'm sure it's like that with performance, right? With
absolutely. And just studying even on your own, like you're never done. I had one kid ask me once, because he finished, you know, guitar book 1 and he was on to guitar book 2, and he was like, well, what happens when I finish book 2? I was like, well, then we get book 3. He's like, how many are there? I said, there's a million. Like, you're never going to be done learning. Yeah, he thought, like, he really thought, and it was so cute that, like, you know, once you finish book whatever, you're done with guitar. Like, you know all that you need to know. I know. It's very cute.
How old was he?
I think at 9, maybe 8 or 9, something like that. Yeah, that's cute. I know. It's awesome. That's why, again, I like teaching, you know, because stuff like that never would have occurred to me. Like, when am I done learning guitar? Like, you know, never, man. That's
it's a lifetime.
Yep. It's amazing. So, and, you know, again, I like to, for me, including some of my, you know, favorite tunes into the whole thing helps me stay excited about it. And maybe, like, again, same thing. Some of my teachers, you know, it was just like, here's the book and do the stuff in the book. And like, then, you know, later on, I had other people that were like only showing me songs that I wanted, and I didn't know anything. So I'm like right there in the middle, you know, where I'm like, okay, you have to do this. I know you want to do this. Let's like do some of that. And then, you know,
I like that.
Yeah.
I had a piano teacher in high school that let me learn like Pink Floyd songs and stuff. And I loved that. It was awesome. But then I also had to do, you know, what was it, Hanon or whatever, like, you know, the actual,
right.
You know, technical practice stuff. Traditional, I don't know how to describe it, but.
Oh yeah, no, I got a Hanon book right here. I know, you know, but I don't use it as much as I play Pink Floyd songs.
Right.
So
it's the motivation thing, right?
Totally. So I don't, you know, like as far, you know, you asked some really good questions, stuff I hadn't thought about. I feel like the time thing is weird because maybe I probably could have researched, you know, the YouTube stuff a little more than I did, but I didn't. I just didn't. I just jumped right in and was like, you know, then surprised when this stuff happened to me. But I can't. Can you like still think of a reason that like a band might want to like prevent you from using their music other than thinking that you're stealing it?
Right. I mean, that's probably it. They probably just have computers and a company running it and striking people.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So
it's probably pretty impersonal, you know.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure it's not Paul McCartney sitting there. But I like. Don't you want like? I want him to know, you know, like, you know,
like, hey, I'm just trying to spread it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just think that, you know, this song is really challenging, and I want people to know how challenging it is. And that, again, that's why it's so funny to me, because that is how I became a Beatle maniac. And that's like my favorite band in the world. And it was, again, I tried, like, you think they suck? Try to play this song, you know?
Right.
Like, oh, wow, that's not easy. I was wrong.
Yeah. They need like a separate category for like YouTube music educators or something. Like if they had
Right.
something similar to buying the sheet music for your class, like that would be amazing. Like what if it was a small fee and you
Right.
just paid it and then you had the rights to teach it?
Gladly. And again,
Yeah.
I purchased the song like online to use it because I want it, I
Yeah.
already own it like in like 5 different things, I have,
Yeah.
like I already own it in a lot of different places, but I bought it again because I knew I was going to be using it.
Yeah.
So I know it's only $1 or something for them, but like, one of my songs could get streamed 3 million times before I would make $1.29. So,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Well, maybe, I mean, who knows? Maybe there is something like that out there and we just don't know about it and someone will comment and
yeah,
tell us
that's what I'm
about it.
hoping. That's why I was like, I was eager to, beyond just like catching up with you. Like this was, I was excited because I have noticed that, when I did post about it in different places that, people had some interesting comments and feedback. It wasn't something that people felt indifferent about.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a lot of people chime in and say like, you shouldn't use people's music for education. I didn't hear that, but I'm open to like hearing
Right.
why, for sure.
Yeah.
So that
'Cause
would
it's
be
a pretty
interesting.
common practice to use other people's songs to teach.
That's the
It's
like,
not like,
yeah.
it's not unusual.
No, and again, if I would like the exact same bass line, that's just like a blues. It's basically like it's essentially a 1-4-5 blues with some other like funky changes, right? And if I had just played that bass line and was like,
Yeah.
in with all those other billions of videos, like, 40-year-old dude plays blues bass line, like who's going to watch that video, right? But if it says
Right.
the Beatles, right, then people watch, people look it up.
Yeah.
People aren't just looking up like blues bass. And if they do, I'm so far down the list, they'll never see me.
Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Trying to stand out, but
Just, just
yeah,
trying to exist over here.
just trying to exist, and I feel like, again, I have a unique perspective. At least I think I do. I mean, who knows? We all think we're snowflakes, but I think that my enthusiasm for music is pretty contagious, and the way I explain it, I hope, is pretty clear. And like I was saying, earlier, like you said when you read what I wrote, is that like I've been doing this online for a long time, so I feel like some YouTube teachers, yeah, they're really good players, but maybe they're not, good teachers, or, maybe they're good teachers, but they don't know who they're talking to or how to explain things to someone who's not there.
Right.
And I do that
Yeah.
all day. Yes, the person can ask me questions, but it's like I'm still like translating over this, platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely noticed because I teach too, and I teach an undergraduate class, and then I started teaching private lessons too, but in just in audio engineering and stuff. But I've noticed that knowing what my students tend to ask me when I'm teaching them like
Right.
Pro Tools, for example,
Right.
like that helps me come up with video ideas and those tend to do really well, the ones that are common questions that I tend to get in the
Right.
classroom. So it's like, it's an advantage being an actual real life teacher, so to speak. When
Yeah,
you're
and
on
that's
YouTube.
that's why I picked, again, that same tune, because it's got concepts in it, right, that you can use over and over again.
Yeah.
And one is like playing a riff that's too fast, for you to be able to handle, and like starting
Yeah.
slow with a metronome. Anything can be played at a slow tempo, right? Like any riff is easy if it's do 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 do, as opposed to
Yeah.
like da 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 da, like cooking like that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff I was trying to get across. And also it's like, oh, this riff is just the same thing higher, like a blues, thing.
Yeah.
But because, yeah, I know what questions come up, so it's like I've taught so much that I feel like I know things that people need to know. You know, I
Yeah.
have like all this
For
experience,
sure.
you know, so I'm trying to share it with people.
Yeah. Cool.
But selfishly too, you know, again, I'm promoting myself and, you know, like,
That's what we're all doing. It's,
right,
there's varying degrees, I think, and
right.
we do our
Absolutely.
best.
Well, and plus I get a genuine thrill out of people getting better. Like I dedicated my whole life to it because it's all that I really, you know, have cared
Yeah.
about up to a certain point, you know, like, and, you know, aside from family and friends and my wife, you know, it's like like most of the time it's, you know, like I'm indifferent about a lot of stuff, but music has always kept me like pretty supercharged, you know?
Yeah. It's like the contagious excitement when a student gets really excited about
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
cool.
I get pumped like on my videos, like sometimes I'm like, all right, you're doing a great job. I think you are. I'm not sure, but like, I hope you are,
I think
you
you
know?
are.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you're doing
I love
excellent.
that.
Because like, I just, you know, like I get excited, about,
Yeah.
you know, I want people to feel what I feel or get what I've gotten out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's why not everyone does it. Like a lot of people start, but there's a lot of, you know, guitars and basses and closets around the
Yeah.
globe gathering dust, you know?
Yep.
It's
If I didn't have a studio, I'd have that.
right. Yeah. But again, that's another thing I'm always like, you know, if it was easy, don't you think everybody would do it? Like who
Right.
doesn't want to play guitar? Like
Yeah.
who doesn't want to? But most people don't because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now you'd mentioned something about like you wanted to ask me about the like because something about the
Oh,
bio
yeah.
with the teaching.
Yeah. About your online courses and like what platform you're using and how you're doing that.
Well, now are you talking about my lessons or are you talking about the courses?
The courses, because you have like private lessons, right? And then you have
Yeah.
the YouTube stuff, and then you have courses.
Right, and those I'm still developing.
Oh, okay, cool.
But you know, I mean, who knows when people are going to watch this? But that's my ultimate goal. Is that like, again, I feel like, you know, one video at a time is cool, but like I have you know some really good ideas about how to take people from, you know, step by step through a concept, and
Yeah.
and that's my ultimate goal is to be like, you know, this is like if you want to do this thing, I can show you how to do it in this many steps, and
Cool.
ultimately that's my my goal. Like YouTube is, you know, kind of the calling card. If people like my teaching style, then they'll learn a lot from me if it's, you know, the specific course. Like it's not, oh, I don't care about, you know, jazz, bass or funk or blues. Like, you know, I want to learn how to do like say walking bass lines or something. It's like, okay, well, here's the specific course, you know?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I am still developing and sort of like researching what'll be the most user-friendly platforms for me. But I'm in a couple of different groups, you know, like I did, you know, this full-time YouTubers group, you know, that there are a lot of people in there. That's what they do too, you know, try to develop these courses. So I've been like working in the shadows on that. But my main goal was I wanted to have enough content on my channel to like draw people to me. And I'm sort of in that phase where I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like now let's work. I mean, I'm going to keep making videos, but like, you know, I have enough to where someone might be interested, you know,
Right. Yeah, for
in
sure.
learning more about what I have to say.
Cool. Sweet. Well, I'm excited to see that, and I'll probably pick your brain at some point, like once you start putting those up, I'm sure.
Yeah, because
I would love to.
You could absolutely do that as well, and I'm sure people would benefit from a step-by-step thing from you too. Is that why you were asking?
Yeah, I'm a little curious about it. And I don't know a lot about that ecosystem. I'm sure there are other people wondering about that whole ecosystem. I know there's a lot of like a lot of people are skeptical about it too, because it's like, you know, everyone and their mom has a course on YouTube, right? So,
Right.
but I think it is different when it's coming from legit educators, and not, just some random person that decided to make a course. But not that those are all bad, I'm sure.
No, there's some great
But
ones.
I was just curious about it.
I've the reason I'm into it is because I've taken them myself. I've used them myself, and they're really helpful. If you like, I was I'm still terrible, so I don't even want to mention it. But one of my projects, I moved back to New York, from California. A little over a year ago, and we have winter here, and winter sucks. So in order to make it suck less, I bought a pedal steel, and I'm terrible at it, but I'm getting better. And one of the things that I did, because I knew I didn't have time to like meet with an instructor, weekly. That's the best way. There's no way around it,
Right.
But I didn't know anybody here. B, I know some great people online, but like I just knew I couldn't dedicate like enough time to it to really like not be a terrible student, because I have so many things that I'm doing. So I bought a course to go at my own pace.
Cool.
And it's really helpful, between like a course and a book, if you kind of know how to learn, or if you have someone that takes you from, that is a good teacher that can take you from 0 to, the next level. Like that's pretty amazing. The one I bought, I think the guy maybe is a little too advanced. And he's like too good, and forgot how.
Forgets.
Yeah, or maybe just they assume that something, but I knew very little. Like I'd played no slide up to that point. I've never used like finger picks, and it's like,
It's different.
But it was very helpful. I still learned a lot,
Cool.
And I thought I could do that, and I could do different levels, like, for people, because sometimes, you explain stuff that you don't need to, and sometimes you skip over things that are very important,
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I know who I'm talking to, right? Like a YouTube video for you, it's like, you don't know what level of experience these people have, right? But you've been doing it for a while. So would you say that like you sort of know who you're talking to now more than ever?
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to err on the side of like over explaining things, because I know a lot of people that are searching on YouTube. I think there's probably more beginners than, and it's kind of like the idea of what you're saying with musical instruments, right? Where people kind of give up after a while. So to some extent, I think there's probably a bigger group of beginners, and then it gets narrower as you get to the top. And
totally.
so I always kind of err on the side of explaining it too much. And I'm like, well, then these you can sit through it. Like if I'm probably more advanced, right? And so I will sometimes watch a video or something, and I will be patient and to wade through the information to get to whatever the thing is that I'm actually looking for.
Right.
I don't know. And I just see that as part of like the thing you have to do if where you're looking is free content, right? So,
Right.
which I don't know, good or bad, but like, so long story short, I tend to err on the side of over explaining things and like talking as if it's to a beginner or someone who's like a beginner intermediate type of level.
Right. See, so I do chapters in my videos so people can skip if they need to. But like in a course, it's even better because you could say, like if you already know this, then just go to video 7,
Right.
And you don't have to like hear me like try. And plus you can also specify too. You can tell people like, okay, this is if you already have a foundation and you want to learn more about the blues, like, this is for you. But if you don't know how to tune your bass, like don't play this, don't buy this course,
Yeah.
So I'll be pretty specific, you can narrow it down that way and be like, who am I talking to? Because and you can even do advanced concepts for people who are like pretty good, but want to get great.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's
Yeah, I
my
guess we
main
could kind of
focus.
specify that on YouTube, but we don't for some reason.
I don't want to exclude anybody, really,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
because if you say, strums for beginners or something, like, how beginner are you? Like, have you ever strummed
Yeah.
before?
Right.
Like, or, do you know
Right.
it? And so it's really hard. It's hard to, like, know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Just a imaginary audience that's actually real.
Right.
And then makes mean comments about how you explain everything too much.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
You say a lot and you're like,
Yeah.
you try it,
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the, they were real big on shorts, right? They were pumping shorts for a while. And like, I was like, sure, I'll try some shorts. And the first short I ever posted, the first comment I ever got, somebody just wrote, boo. And I was like, really? Like, what is boo?
No.
Yeah. I kept doing it, but it was like, wow, how strange. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So
how about some positivity in the world?
Yeah. The wider your audience, the more likely you are to get some jerks,
Yeah.
But hey,
we all get those. Yeah. Screw them.
Yeah. I mean,
they're grumpy. Whatever. They're just grumpy.
I'm not for everyone, and I know that,
Yeah.
but I just usually say, oh, sorry, it didn't work for you. Like, perhaps you can try one of the other 10 million videos there are of this song. But thanks for watching.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. You don't have to troll back.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
like we'll see. I'll definitely keep you updated. I mean, I've been researching the platforms, but what I'm trying to find is something that like requires less, more like a set it and forget it, thing. Because I what I've heard from people is that it's a lot of maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of communication back and forth with people about stuff.
Yeah.
It's not as like easy to just set up and leave alone. You got to like keep working with people and stuff.
Well, maybe if anyone watching this has any recommendations, they can put it in the comments for us. Because
I would certainly appreciate that.
Especially if it's like a platform people like using as the student. That'd be good to know.
Yeah, that's interesting because I asked other creators, but I didn't ask like students. Like, I should just say, well, anyone who's taken a course, what have you used? I've only used like one or two, But yeah, that's interesting.
It's a good
Got
question.
some good ideas there, bud.
Well, I've kept you for a long time, so I should probably let you go. But thank you so much for coming on the channel. Everyone check his links in the description, please. I don't know where to look. I'm like crazy person right now. But anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching.
Bye, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, I guess. Talk to you next week. Okay.